We are going to discuss about polytrauma and disaster management. Some trauma facts. Trauma is like an epidemic in modern world. Trauma is preventable, predictable, and treatable conditions. Over 6 lakh deaths occur each year throughout the world, and is the leading cause of death in second to fifth decades of population. So it is a huge economic loss. The common causes of polytrauma are industrial accidents, road traffic accidents, warfare, and fall from height. Coming to polytrauma definition, it is a clinical state resulting following a injury which leading to the physiological and metabolic changes, or it can also be defined as when the injury involves two major systems with one major limb, or one major system with two major limbs, or one major system with grade 3 compound injury, or an unstable fracture, pelvic fracture with visceral injuries. Polytrauma should be differentiated from multiple fractures. Multiple fractures usually involvement of the skeletal system and usually purely dealt with orthopedicians. But polytrauma is managed by set of people. So before going to polytrauma, we need to understand what is ISS score or injury severity score. Before going to this ISS score, we have to know what is abbreviated injury scale and the regions of the body. Abbreviated injury scale is nothing but we have to divide the patients from minor to lethal conditions, and we have to give score from 1 to 6. And we have to divide the body regions into 6 regions: head and neck including 1, face 2, chest including thoracic spine and diaphragm 3, abdomen and pelvic contents is 4, pelvic girdle 5, and external. For calculating ISS, first we have to take the most 3 affected parts and we have to scale them. And after adding all the 3 regions, we'll get an ISS score which ranges from 1 to 75. Depending upon the scoring system, we divide it as 1 to 8 it is minor, 9 to 15 is moderate, 16 to 24 it is serious, 25 to 49 it is severe, 50 to 74 is critical, and 75 is maximum. Deaths in polytrauma. There are 3 types of deaths: immediate death, early deaths, and late deaths. Immediate deaths occur at the time of injury. Early deaths usually a few hours from the trauma, and late deaths occurs in few weeks. Most common causes of early deaths or immediate deaths is severe head injuries, brainstem injuries, injury to the nasal vessel, or massive blood loss due to visceral injuries. Early deaths are due to intracranial bleeds, for example, extradural, subdural hemorrhages, chest injury like tension pneumothorax, hemopneumothorax, cardiac tamponades, abdominal bleeding like splenic injury, or pelvic bleedings. Late deaths, it is usually occurs after several days, and most common causes are sepsis, which leading to organ failures. Triage. Coming to triage, what is a triage? In French, it is called as to sort out. It is usually used in mass casualty accidents. It is just to divide the patients into less category, less injury category, and more serious category injuries. We will give color coding: red, yellow, green, and black. Red tag means they have to be attended immediately. Yellow, we can observe the patients. In green, we can wait the patients, and black, they are dead or moribund fractures or moribund patients. What are the aims of the management? First, the main aim is to save the life of the patient, then followed by a limb, then followed by a function of the limb. To salvage, to preserve a function, to preserve the function of a limb, we usually follow Mangle Extremity Severity Score. There are 4 categories in this severity score. First is the intensity of the injury and the systolic blood pressure of the patient, the ischemic effect of the affected limb, and the age group. When the score is less than 6, there is a chance for survival of the limb. When the score is more than 7 or more than 7, there are more chances of amputation. Golden hour. the patient chances of survival diminishes rapidly after 1 hour. There is an increase in threefold mortality for every 30 minutes delay. So rapid transport and resuscitation of the patient is criteria and mandatory. Before going to any protocols, this is the story of a James Steiner. He's an orthopedician. Once he met with an accident where in the casualty, he noticed some lacunae in the treatment and the resuscitation programs. So to prevent the confusion, he developed ATLS protocol, or we call it as advanced trauma life support. It is a 4-stage protocol: pre-hospital phase, primary survey, secondary survey, and a definitive care. Coming to pre-hospital phase, these are the frontline warriors. Ideally, everybody should know about these ABCs. They have to perform CPR, or they have to check for airways. But the problems in pre-hospital phase is lack of general awareness by the public, availability of trained personnel, and the distance of injury to the hospital. Transport. Before transporting, every fracture should be splinted. The patient should be transported in a scoop stretcher in a log rolling method. This is how we transport a spinal injury patients. This is a log rolling method using a spine board. Coming to when the patient or the polytrauma cases come to the casualty, they are attended by a core team, which is supervised by team leader, who is a senior most personnel who supervises all the events. And the core team consists of anesthetic doctor, general surgeon, orthopedician, emergency physician, and so on. Coming to primary survey. Primary survey includes airway maintenance, breathing and oxygenation, circulation, disability, and exposures. First, we have to look for any airway obstructions. The sequence of events which we maintain our airway is, first we have to lift the chin, followed by jaw thrust. Then we have to scoop the oral cavity with a finger, followed by a suction. Then endotracheal tube is inserted. If there is more facial injuries or there is edema around the lips, then we have to go for cricothyroidotomy or tracheostomy. Never ever we should not move the spine or neck while maintaining airway. Neurological examination alone does not exclude any cervical injuries. So always assume a cervical spine injury. This is how we transport a patient with rigid fixation of the head and spine. Coming to breathing and ventilation, patent airways does not ensure adequate ventilation. So always assure we give ventilation with 100% of oxygen. Then look for any significant findings like asymmetric expansion of the chest. Is there any penetrating wounds? Is there any suction wounds? Is there any decreased breath sounds or any distended neck veins? Or is there any tracheal deviations? Always look for any rib contractions, foreign material in the airways. Listen to the speech or portions of the patient's voice. Feel for any cryptus, usually due to subcutaneous emphysema or tracheal deviations. Life-threatening conditions of the thoracic region include open thoracic injuries, cardiac tamponades, tension pneumothorax, and hemothorax. What is a flail chest? It is fracture of rib at more than one point of occurring in 2 or 3 ribs on one side. Coming to cardiac tamponades, it is collection of fluid around in the pericardium. So there is a classical triad, we call it as Beck's triad. It consists of engorged neck veins, hypotension, and muffled heart sounds. For tension pneumothorax, we usually do needle aspiration. We insert the needle in the midclavicular region at the level of tension pneumothorax. Hemothorax can be drained by intercostal tube drainage. When there is massive hemothorax, that is more than 1.5 liters are present in the chest cavity. This is how we drain a intercostal. Coming to circulation, clinical evaluation is essential for hemorrhage control. In polytrauma patients, shock is considered as hypovolemic unless other proven. So radiological X-rays, serial radiological X-rays are compulsory to evaluate hemorrhage. Always assess for the rate, rhythm and quality of the pulse. Always compare and radial and the carotid pulses. A rapid low amplitude with narrow pulse pressure is an indicator for shock. Assess the circulation by seeing the color of the skin, temperature of the skin and moisture. We can also record blood pressure, respiratory rate, capillary refill time. The level of the brain can be considered by level of circulation. And the urine output is an indicator for renal function. What are the major causes of bleeding? External bleeding, thoracic bleeding, pelvic or intra-abdominal bleeding, or long bone fractures. Coming to external bleeding, we can stop the external bleeding by direct local pressure. For thoracic bleeding, we can insert an intercostal tube. For pelvic blinder, for pelvic bleeding, there is a pelvic blinder, external fixator can be used. Intra-abdominal bleeding can be confirmed by ultrasound, CT scan, or color Doppler. For ultrasound, there is a focused assessment with sonography for trauma patients. We usually call it as fast scan, in which we specifically look 4 quadrants of the abdomen, that is around the liver, around the spleen, pelvic contents, and around the pericardium. CT scan is used to diagnose mild amount of bleeding, intra-abdominal bleeding. Color Doppler is to rule out any vessel injuries intra-abdominally. When there is a vessel injury, then emergency laparotomy is done. For children less than 6 years of age, when there is severe dehydration leading to collapse of veins, intraosseous infusion can be done. Most common site is upper part of the tibia. Venesection can be also done at great saphenous vein region and medial basilic vein region in the elbow. Maintenance of circulation is maintained by inserting 2 large 16 gauge needles, preferably depending upon the stage of hemorrhage, whether type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, we can use crystalloids or colloidal solutions. Initial fluid therapy includes, for children, a bolus of 20 ml per kg is given for children, and for adults, 1 to 2 liters is the bolus amount, followed by reassessment and maintenance the fluid therapy. Rule of 3. For every 1 ml of blood loss, 3 ml of crystalloid solution should be given. Diagnostic peritoneal lavage can be done if there is intestinal injury, or there is we can aspirate when there is we can aspirate bile or blood. It is an indication to open a abdomen. Coming to disability, 50% of trauma deaths are due to head injuries. To describe the level of consciousness of the patient, we should inquire whether the patient is alert, whether he is responding to vocal stimulus, whether he is responding to painful stimulus, or he is unresponsive to all the stimulus. For predicting the outcome of a head injury, we usually follow a Glasgow Coma scale. The components of Glasgow GCS score is eye opening, verbal response, and motor response. When the score is less than 12, the chances of patient going to coma or death is more. But there are some limitations in GCS score. It does not include pupillary reactions. And when there is any severe periorbital edema is then, eye opening score cannot be predicted. Always make sure any head injury, there is impairment of cerebral autoregulation. So any life-saving procedure should be done immediately. Coming to exposure or environment control, patient should be undressed from head to toe. We have to maintain the room temperature. Since hypothermia is more common, intravenous fluid should be warm. Always don't forget to look the back. Since there are many penetrating injuries, we miss. Achieving to the primary survey, we have to monitor for electrocardiac monitoring. Urinary catheterization should be done. If possible, Ryle's tube can be inserted. Serial X-rays for the chest, C-spine, and pelvic should be taken. Secondary surveys, when after the primary survey, after the primary survey, when all the normal signs are good, we have to reassess the patient from head to toe. Again, we have to take GCS score. Focused history directs the pattern of severity of injury. We have to inquire about allergies, any medication patient is having, or any past medical history. When is the last oral intake? What are the events leading to the polytrauma? Constant evaluation. It is an inflammatory immune response following an injury or any tissue damage. There are two types of immune responses. Immediately, there is a hyperinflammation state. Usually, it is carried out by neutrophils, polymorphonucleocytes, monocytes, macrophages. It is considered as hyperinflammatory period, or we also call it as systemic inflammatory response syndrome. This phase is usually followed by adaptive immunoresponse, or we call it as hyperinflammation. We can also call it as compensatory anti-inflammatory response syndrome. Systemic inflammatory response syndrome is defined when there is heart rate is more than 90 beats per minute, when the respiratory rate is more than 20 per minute, when the WBC count is less than 4,000 or more than 12,000 per meter cube, when the temperature of the body is less than 36 degrees or more than 38 degrees centigrade. There is always an interplay between SIRS or CRS. When they go parallel, the hemostasis achieves after 2 weeks. When there is more pro-inflammatory stage, that is when the injury is more severe, or when the surgery, when the second surgery is done very early, there is imbalance between this pre-inflammatory phase and anti-inflammatory phase, which leads to multi-organ dysfunction like cerebral edema, shock, acute respiratory distress syndrome, hepatic and renal failure, disseminated intravascular coagulation, and increased mucosal permeability. What is the endpoint of registration? When there is stable hemodynamics is there, stable oxygen saturation, when the lactate levels are less than 2 millimoles per liter, when there are no coagulation disturbances, when the temperature is normal, when the urinary output is more than 1 ml per kg per hour, and there is no need of any inotropic support. When the lactate is a good indicator for tissue hypoxia. More the hypoxia, more the serum lactate levels in the blood. So when the lactate levels are more in the blood, there is a chance of continuous hemorrhage, or there is inadequate resuscitation, or there is a myocardial depression. Serum lactate is a good indicator for mortality. When there is more than 4 milligrams per ml, there is a higher chance of mortality. So definitive surgeries. Orthopedic emergencies like includes dislocations, compartment syndromes, compound fractures, cardiac equina syndromes, and extremity fractures with either neurological or vascular injuries. Coming to pelvic fractures, it is one of the major causes of death when there is associated with massive hemorrhage. So immediate management with severe pelvic fractures includes pelvic binders, external fixators, pelvic packing, and embolizations. Coming to binders, they reduce the pelvic volume, so decreasing the space, so chances of hemorrhages are less. It allows clot formation, allows for autotransfusion. What are the disadvantages of pelvic binders? Compartment syndrome and skin necrosis. A bedsheet can be used as a pelvic binder. This is an external fixator applied to the iliac bones to decrease the intrapelvic lumen. Pelvic packing is done after a laparotomy. Sterile gauze pieces are kept in the abdomen, followed by an external fixator fixation. Embolization is a good procedure for containing the intra-abdominal vessel bleedings. But the only complication after embolization is necrosis of the end tissue. Coming to damage control. Damage control was initially used by United States Navy. It is the capacity of the ship to absorb damage and maintain mission integrity. Damage control can be also be applied in our polytrauma cases. In damage control surgery, there are 3 stages of treatment. In the initial stage, there is an emergency surgery to save a life or a limb. What is the purpose of this emergency surgery? To achieve hemostasis, limit the contamination, decompress this cranium, pericardium, thorax, or abdomen. So it does not include any reconstructive surgeries. Going to stage 2, it is a physiological restoration in ICU setup, followed by a definitive treatment. The lethal triad in a polytrauma case is acidosis, coagulopathies, and hypothermia. Early total care is done within 24 hours when the serum lactate levels is less than 2.4, 2.5 millimoles per liter. The main advantage of early total care is to relieve the pain, there is less chance of infections, early mobilizations, and prevent fat embolisms. Patients in damage control can be divided into 4 categories: stable, borderline patients, unstable patients, and extreme patients. For stable patients, early total care can be implemented. For unstable and extreme patients, damage control surgeries is done. Timing of surgery. During day, when the patient is stable or hemodynamically stable, definitive treat is done in the first day. Following is an inflammatory or SIRS syndrome. It is an inflammatory phase, so we have to avoid surgeries in this period, that is 2 to 5 days. Followed is the good window for opportunity to perform a surgery. After the day 7, there is chance of infections are high. So coming to disaster management. A disaster is a natural or man-made event which negatively affects the life, property, livelihood, industry, resulting permanent changes in the ecosystem and the environment. It is a health system strategy for training health professionals and along with paramedical team to deal with disruption and damage which occurs on a large scale. There are 3 strategies. One is disaster preparedness, other is disaster response, and the other is disaster mitigation. Coming to disaster preparedness, it is a long-term program where the idea is to improve the overall capability of our system. It requires appropriate systems, procedures, resources, and prompt and effective assistance to victims. Disaster response. It is a phase in which medical treatment is required for a large number of casualties. So maximum need is required in the initial few hours. We call it as golden hour. We already dealt with triage and coding system. Coming to relief phase is the time when assistance of various forms comes from outside. It includes food and clothing. Disease control and surveillance for disease are important part of the relief. For example, outbreak of gastroenteritis. Rehabilitation is the final phase where the restoration of normalcy occurs. It is a long-drawn, tedious process, and hurried measures of relief hinder this process by providing an unsustainable resource of inflow for a very brief period. Water, food, sanitation, and shelters are the basic requirements of good rehabilitations. And disaster mitigation. Disaster mitigation measures includes the preparedness of a country to prevent the hazards causing an emergency outbreaks. It is done by flood mitigation works, appropriate land using planning, improved codes and quality of buildings, protection of vulnerable population and the buildings. So I in my discussion of polytrauma and disaster management,